All right. Hello, my name is Clara Anderson-Sante. I'm the program director of Gilda's Club Kansas City, which is a local cancer nonprofit serving both Kansas and Missouri, anyone impacted by any type of cancer, as well as their family, friends, and children, and helping our community as a whole be more educated about the cancer experience, what support options are available, and really navigating our healthcare systems, as well as really partnering with great community organizations to help reduce the risk of cancer disparities and really provide that education piece. And we're happy to be a part of the Juneteenth KC celebration today. And I have with me Miss Taisha, who's going to talk about the experience at Gilda's Club and just kind of really how vulnerable it can be, really leaning into the support group space during the cancer experience, but what can be achieved by that. So Taisha, tell us a little bit more about your story and your experience.
Absolutely. My name is Taisha Moore, and I became a member with Gilda's Club around probably about April or May of 2015. My mother, and I have her lovely picture here. That's my mom. Her name is Tarla Moore, and that's my sister, Tylisha. That's me. My mother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in February of 2015. And that was one of the most sad, mad, devastating days of my life. And it left myself and my family with so many I don't knows. And so through the course of just talking with friends and family, I was guided to find a support group that would help me understand what it is to have a parent with a cancer diagnosis. And so that's basically how I started my path to Gilda's Club. And I found Gilda's Club through a Google search. I did a Google search of cancer support groups in Kansas City. Gilda's Club popped up. I knew where the plaza was. And so I made the phone call and was received with open arms. I went through an intake process, which was very minimal. You know, they wasn't trying to find out everything about me. They just wanted to know my name, how old I was, you know, who was affected with cancer, how they could help me. Like, they wanted to know what I was looking for as far as help. And I told them my information, told them it was my mom and that I was going to be caring for her. And I started to attend the group sessions with caregivers, other caregivers like myself who were taking care of either friends or family that had the cancer diagnosis. So like I said, I started that journey about April, May 2015, and I'm still a member with Gilda's Club. I still participate in activities and functions. But going back, talking about just being uncomfortable with a group setting of people I don't know, in a new environment, talking about cancer, it was very uncomfortable. So the first few sessions, I may have said a couple of things, you know, and I didn't even stay. I ended up leaving. I left the group because I was like, well, maybe this is not for me. And the reason why I left is because cancer is so overwhelming. I was taking care of my mom throughout the day. I was working a full-time job and going to these meetings with strangers and people I didn't know. And I heard some similarities, but I didn't really know how to use the therapy or the advice or the conversation to help me out. And so I started to look at it as another task on the list.
Yeah, one more thing to do in the middle of such heavy medical appointments.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so during the time when I stopped going to the caregiver group sessions, my mom's health, started to decline. So I stopped going maybe, I don't know, I think I was there maybe about 3 or 4 months, possibly. I know it was a pretty long break, like maybe that was about 3 or 4 months. So now we're into 2016. And during that time without Gilda's, I was relying on what I know about life, what I know about illness. And up until this point that my mom had cancer, all I knew about illness was a cough or allergies or you skin your knee.
Yeah, not chronic fear, long-term side effects.
Right. So when we would go to a doctor's appointment and the oncologist is telling us that there are new growths or we have to switch chemotherapy, I didn't understand. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this should be like, you put peroxide on the scar.
Yeah. Well, that there should be a start and an end without any diversion, and that it should be a plan that doesn't get derailed.
Right. And I did not understand that. And so that made it just made it harder. And I became overwhelmed with the different treatments or a side effect of the treatment. So mom's nausea, she would forget things. She started having to use a magnifying glass to see, even with her glasses. And so it was just too much. And I was stressed out. Mm-hmm. She was stressed out. I did not know how to handle.
And I think a big part of our program, for a long time was support groups, and that's what people thought of us, right? Like that's where you go, or the support group place. But so much of it has shifted to fill those gaps of education. Like what are treatment and side effect management? What does that look like? How do we navigate just healthy lifestyles with yoga, meditation, nutrition? Because in cancer care, the nutrition really gets changed a lot with chemo, and just kind of really added in elements of our program to help address those kind of concerns and needs. And I think a lot of times we get people who are like, yeah, I don't want to sit in a room and talk about it. And it's like finding the space that there are some who need it, and that that's available if they do, or individual counseling as well. But that there's education, there's classes where you can just pop in when it fits that hectic schedule, when you really have that one topic that you really need some extra education and you don't want to call and hassle the doctor or the nurse. And I think the benefit of what makes it such a great community organization is that it's all at no cost. Everything that we offer is independently fundraised, so that there aren't barriers to receiving the support. That really is, as long as you can make it to our clubhouse at 43rd and Main, although right now it's all on Zoom. We got real fancy and we went virtual, and probably will stay that way. And our Zoom classes are listed on the Juneteenth website. But I think there's something for everyone. And so, like you were saying, just learning about the side effect management. So talk a little bit more about kind of how your story evolved.
Absolutely. So I'm at this place where mom's treatments are changing. She's having side effects. Other things are happening. And I made the decision that I needed support. I needed some help. And so I decided to rejoin the caregiver support group. And when I did, I went with the mindset that maybe I can learn something about the side effects, like as Clara was talking about, the side effects of these treatments, and I could take it back to my mom. And so that way I understand and I'm helping her to understand. Mm-hmm. The second goal was that I can talk to people who truly are in the same role that I am. Mm-hmm. Because it was difficult to talk with my other family members who were not caring for my mom 24/7, and they didn't understand my pain, my grief, my stress. So when I went back, I had those two things in mind, and I listened, and I heard people say or talk about the same things that I was experiencing. And the counselor on hand who would sit in the group with us, because it's not just the caregivers, you know, there is someone like Clara who sits in there with us and helps to guide not only conversation, but then to give us education about what they have learned and what they know at a different expert level about what you experience caring for someone with cancer. And I'm not lying, the stress level just started to go down, because now I had an understanding. I could wrap my head around what was happening, and I could give that information to mom. And then there were other activities, as Clara was talking about, other things that were available, not just to me as a caregiver, but then also to my mom. And I used to go back and report to my mom, because they had the scarf making, like silk scarves, and you could do some different things, or the yoga. I went to a meditation class, so I started to pick up on other activities, and that was really awesome, because I've learned how to simply quiet myself when stress got too high, and it made the difference.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits of Gilda's Club or having a licensed mental health professional kind of help is, in your family, this is what happens in every family, we're emotionally protective of our loved ones. So getting fearful about the future with your mom is hard, because she's living in her own emotional space, right? And or your sister and your family. And so like you need that one space where you're not taking on other people's emotions. You really can just like almost emotionally dump out everything that you were really wrestling with, and have someone meet you there in that space where you don't have to keep it together. You don't have to have that like, I'm good, we're just keeping our head down, going from one thing to the next, right? Like you can really slow down and be intentional about like offloading all that heavy emotion in a safe way where you'll get supported. And the vision is so that no one faces cancer alone. And sometimes it's the patient that comes to Gilda's Club. Sometimes it's just the family. A lot of times it's the whole group, right? So there's something there kind of for everyone. So talk more a little bit about how you've used it in the last couple of years.
So in the last couple of years, I had to live with the loss of my mom. So my mom, Tarla, that was one of the things I learned. She passed away, and I say this with a smile as a result of what I received from Gilda's Club. I can say this, so I just wanted to make that clear. Like I've received some healing. But she passed away January 19th, 2017. And I immediately called Gilda's Club, and I talked to Clara, and I told her, I need your help. I need grief support. And I was included in a group therapy or a group grief group. And we had, I think, was it 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks of scheduled time at the clubhouse, where I talked with other people who were suffering from loss, from losing someone that they loved due to cancer. And we had, it was structured. We were able, as Clara said before, I was able to go to that group and say I was mad at cancer. I was mad that my mom died. I was, angry. And I was also able to hear other people who felt like I did. Clara was there to guide us through different models that helped to, again, understand what happened, what I had been through, what I walked through with my mom, and how to live with that loss, how to live with that hurt, with a newfound hope that it won't hurt forever, but even while it's hurting, there's some intentional actions that I can take so that I can live with it. One of my favorite models that we talked about, I think it's called the Oscillating Theory.
Oh, yeah. The dual process model. You're doing such a good job.
That is my favorite. And the reason why, let me tell y'all, this is the reason why it's my favorite. So this is what would happen. In one day, in one span of 24 hours, I would wake up sobbing, just missing my mom, mad at cancer, just. And then, I don't know, about maybe 3 hours later, I was like, okay, I'm good. And I'm just feeling like Taisha. And I'm just doing my life just like this, because I got a beat in my head. But I'm just doing life. And out of the blue, these feelings would come back. And so when Clara presented to us this oscillating theory, which is that, sometimes you're in active grief and then sometimes you're in active living, and it just goes back and forth, that it was like a aha moment for me. I've lost people before. I'm not new to grief, right? But I've never lost my mom, right? And I've never had to experience my mom having cancer. And so that means this grief experience was unlike anything ever before. In my mind was not computing things, but that one piece of, sometimes you're going to be in active living, sometimes you're going to be in active grief, and it's going to go like that. It meant the world.
You might live on one side or the other entirely. And good grief, which doesn't feel good but is good clinically, means that there's movement between the sides, that we don't get stuck on one or the other for long periods of time, long intensities. But it ebbs and flows, because it doesn't ever go away, right? That's not something we can achieve. But there's definitely a huge culture around getting over it, getting to the 5th stage of acceptance. Like, all of that is the miscommunication that we've received all these years in our pop culture and our education around grief. So it's almost another element where we have to unlearn and relearn what's really practical and the expectations we can have on ourselves during such a heavy experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that was so awesome was that I didn't have to send out thank you notes. And let me tell you why this was so important, okay? Because my grandma, okay, she was on me. Like, you gotta. And at that point, y'all, I was like, well, Granny, I thanked them when they came. I don't want to keep, trying to smile in front of people and put on this face of I'm okay, because I was not okay. And that permission to not send thank you cards. It wasn't that I received, oh, don't be grateful to people. No, it was permission to simply be Taisha in her grief.
Yeah.
And that was powerful to me, and I did not send thank you cards right away. But let me tell y'all, because I continue to go to those grief groups and hear and learn and feel connected with others, eventually I did send some thank you cards.
Yeah.
And it was authentic.
Yeah, it's all about that, not adding to the already pressure that we receive, right? And that, because it's a fine balance. We feel guilty and then we feel shame. So we have to walk that back and give ourselves that permission to just be where we are and take one thing off our plate because it's just too much, right? Because usually we're still working, we're manning other family relationships, we're doing all these other things. So it's added layers. So we have about 5 minutes left. So I kind of want to just wrap back up. If you're looking for more information about cancer support and education, please go to gildasclubkc.org. You can find all of our online Zoom support, or you could reach out to info@gildasclubkc.org to speak with me or one of our staff. Taisha, I've always a pleasure and appreciate. Do you have any kind of final thoughts you want to leave with whoever watches this later?
I do. Try it. Call the number. Go to a couple of sessions. If you want me to come to the session with you, I don't know if I can, but I will be like, I'll come to the club and just say, "Hey, you did it!" Just try it. It
Yeah.
helps, and it's lifelong. It's lifelong membership.
Yeah, that first step is usually really hard because it takes so much just to kind of take that hurdle. But we've tried really hard to kind of build that sense of warm and welcoming and that community, really, because no one should have to do it alone. So I'm going to stop our recording there. Thank you, Taisha, and to the Juneteenth Planning Committee at KC for having us, and hope y'all have a great day.